Alex, and welcome to the Business Lounge Sofa, which is my weekly. Oh, I think I'm going to call it a talk show. So, as my wonderful guest, here you are, Alex. Please do introduce yourself, and we will then spend 25 minutes going through the question of productivity and its role in running a successful small business. So, far away, let me hand it over to Alex. Who are you, Alex?
Hi, Enfys. Thank you so much for inviting me today. It's been a real pleasure and an honour to be on your sofa today. My name is Alex Hughes. I run a business called Auxilium Business Consulting. It's about 4.5 years old. I'm based in Kingston upon Thames, and I help those business owners who've come to a crossroads in total overwhelm with the way they've been running their business and need to take a helicopter view. So I work with them to do audits, take a stand back from the business, and we get all their ducks in a row and all their procedures and processes sorted out nicely so they can fall back in love with the business they started.
Aha, yeah, it's important, isn't it? So have you ever had some really scrambled businesses that you've had to sort of unpick? And what do you call it? You call it a spaghetti brain. I always sort of envisage that you go into a business where the business owner has almost like a pile of cords and like leads, and it's just a mess, and you go and you just streamline everything and make it just all work and flow.
It is a little bit like that. The reason I use that analogy is because one of the clients I worked with, I just went like this and used my hands and said, "So what's it all like then?" And he said, "Just like that." He said, "My head feels like it's full of spaghetti." And so we use that analogy I use that analogy to explain to him how we were going to take every piece of spaghetti in his head, strand by strand, end by end, and look at every single area of his business and kind of unravel it, but do it so that he could stand back and see it. And then pictorially and visually, he could see all the components of his business, and then it made more sense.
Yeah. And how useful a process is that for a business, do you think?
I think it's really important because everyone's stuck on that hamster wheel going round and round and just doing things, and they don't actually take the time to stand back and see what they're doing, why they're doing it, is it effective, can it be changed, can we add something in, can we stop doing something? And that's basically all the areas that the audit will take a look at and give a clearer picture and vision for the business owner.
Yeah, I feel like it feels like it's a luxury to pause, right? It's a luxury to just pause and stand back, but actually to slow down really does release you to speed up down the line, doesn't it? Like to take a moment to challenge what you're already doing. Like, why are you doing that like that? When actually it could get streamlined and you could be releasing yourself and your time and leveraging your time much more effectively if you've got the right processes in place. Is that right?
Oh, definitely. And I think you use the word luxury, and I guess, when you're starting a business, you haven't got that time, but over time, you do need to spend that luxury time to stand back from the business. And remember, just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to do something. So there are lots of different ways of making sure that you're running things effectively and smoothly. And outsourcing is one of the major benefits, either to a specialist service or indeed some software.
Yeah. And what kind of I was going to say, so you use a lot of tech. Do you consult and advise on what software and bits of tech and automations and things that people and small business owners can utilize in their business, or just sort of more sort of process driven as opposed to system driven, or a bit of both?
A bit of both, but obviously with the way tech's going, there's always some software or something like that you can use. And I can see the gaps of where things will be far more effective and time and money is saved by the introduction of that piece of software. I'm not always able to implement it because there are specialists that might implement that. I know about CRM systems and the benefits of those. So with the audits, I kind of can highlight those areas and give suggestions and give connections to people who can actually fill those gaps with those specialist services.
Yeah. And how reluctant are small business owners to tech and new ideas and new ways to do things? Because it all sounds so easy when you're just like, oh, just do that, but actually it can be quite a daunting prospect that to take on a new bit of tech. And as a total technophobe myself, I'm speaking totally for myself, although I do see the benefits, so I always overcome that hurdle, but it is a bit of a mental game to be like, oh my god, I've got to learn something new here.
Anything new always takes time. There's always upfront work, and sometimes there's a cost involved in upfront work, but the long-term benefits are the long-term gains as well. But I think, as long as you get the right pieces of software, you don't run after the next shiny thing. You make sure it is something that you personally need for your business, because let's face it, we're swamped by all sorts of different latest this, latest that, and we're all sort of thinking, oh gosh, should I have that? But actually, you just got to stop in your tracks and go, no, I don't actually need that, or I don't need it yet. It might actually not be something you need at this moment in time, but you might work towards. But normally, these companies will train you, will kind of be there as your sort of backstop questions and answers person if you've got a query. And 9 times out of 10, I would say that once something's implemented, then basically you don't look back. And let's face it, we've all got on with tech in COVID, and when we never thought we would do, and now it's second nature to us all. So totally. I think it's just something that takes time. You have to invest in the time to get the benefits and the long-term gains.
Absolutely, 100%, and we are all in it for the long game, aren't we? Not just to I don't know, to scramble around, get confused and stop there. We need to make it easy for ourselves to continue and to make the business sustainable, which actually brings me on to the next moment in this talk. So you're in a really exciting growth phase there at Auxilium, and you're putting some new products together with regard to sustainability. So let's talk about that for a minute. So what is your current stand on sustainability in the small business world?
Well, from my perspective, I think every business, no matter how small, can make a difference. So I started on my journey last year. I went to a webinar and realised I wanted to find out more about how I could make my business, and literally at the moment it's just me, make it run sustainably. And everything I choose to procure and every client I work with, I wanted to make sure that they had that same ethos. So I went on a course and understood it more. And then the next 6 months I spent putting together all the evidence of which I could then submit an accreditation. And in January, I was awarded a silver accreditation from CSRA, which are an independent body who have looked at my business and said, yes, she runs it sustainably. And so therefore, it sort of got me thinking about what people understand about CSR, the myths that it's for a big corporate and it's not actually for little old me as running my own business. Everybody can make a difference, and sustainability is for everyone, and everyone can be noticed for what they do.
And just as a jargon buster, what is CSR for anybody listening?
Okay, so CSR stands for Corporate Social Responsibility, and it's a kind of a management concept where companies integrate social and environmental concerns in their business and their operations and their interactions with all their stakeholders. So it's generally been understood as a way through which a company achieves a balance of economic, environment and social imperatives under 4 pillars, which are environment, philanthropy, community and workplace. Those are the 4 areas that people mainly look at. So it's interesting because people look at CSR and say, oh, well, you just said it's corporate social responsibility, therefore it's for corporates and it's not for me. But everybody needs to look at the C in a different way. So I would look at it, and you would look at it as a company social responsibility. A charity would look at it under the charity arm. A consumer or a citizen.
It's just be called social. It's just be called,
social responsibility. I know.
Responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. So there is an onus on all of us now. It's a really pressing matter to be sustainable in life and business. But how do you help? Like, if somebody, when does somebody know when they need your help? Like, what do you actually help them achieve?
So basically, I'm putting together sort of a 3-pronged approach. So for those who really don't know anything about sustainability, I'll be working with them to sow the seeds, make them understand, see where they can look at this in their business. And for those who are a little bit more aware of what that is, I'll be doing some policies and procedures that can be woven into their business, and that can be basically sort of the ethos of the company to attract new clients and employees. And then when they've got to that stage where they know it's woven into the business and they're doing it on a day-to-day basis, they want to get recognized for that work. And then I would take them on a journey to achieve an accreditation for sustainability.
And when people are thinking about it, it's sort of is it planet versus profit, or can you create a profitable business on the back of being sustainable? Do you think that there's an opportunity to make it sustainable to the benefit of not just the planet, but for the profit as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think long term that is definitely the case. I mean, there could be some upfront costs with changing systems or implementing new ways of procuring, things that you buy for your business. Let's face it. When we buy a hybrid car, for example, they're far more expensive. But long term, you're just using electricity when you're driving. So I think long term, yes, will be some total gains, and there will be things that we stop doing, stop buying, stop doing, and we will end up saving money. But it might be just a few upfront costs initially.
Not only saving money, but making money, right? On the basis of having such good, credentials, basically. So you're, as you said,
Absolutely.
you touched on it in a minute ago, to strengthen the brand and to strengthen your client attraction strategy and to make sure that your workforce is sort of buying into that business ethos.
Yeah, because if you get an accreditation, for example, it will help you fast track the tender system. So a lot of clients now are asking, what is your CSR policy? Can you evidence that? And if you've got an accreditation, an outside body is verified what you do. So you could possibly jump a few hoops in the tender process. It will also attract like-minded clients, stakeholders, and also it's really important that young people looking for jobs now are looking for working with or for companies that have this ethos. They're not necessarily worried about the biggest amount of bucks that they're going to earn. They want to work with companies that care. They want to work with companies that allow them to go out in the community and share what they know and give back. And I think that's just really, really important. And I think, if you're sticking your head above the parapet amongst your competitors because you've got something different, people will sit up and think, oh, their ears will prick up when you're saying something. They'll notice you and think, oh, and they'll remember your brand for being that way inclined.
Yeah, no, it's really important. And so let's move back to sort of how these link together and how you help small businesses sort of integrate their processes with their sustainability objectives. So people come to you, they have a chat, and then what? You just go from there?
Well, if I'm doing an audit with them and looking at the whole of their business, sustainability will be a separate chunk, if you like, or one of the cogs. So every business has got different cogs that will work together and turn together. So one of the things I will talk about in the audit when I'm talking about every aspect of the business will be, what's your stance on sustainability? What are your visions for the company as far as sustainability is concerned? Some people may not have even thought of it. Some people say, well, I know about it, but that's for corporates, as I said earlier. Or some people will be on it already doing things and say, well, we know we're doing things, but how do we bring that all together in order to have a cohesive procedure or policy that we all follow, we can tell our clients about? So it's at that point that I would come in and say, right, I can help you there. And prior to that, I can educate people. But at that point, I know I've got someone who really cares, who's going to sit with me and I can help them. So at that point, I would go in and put some policies and procedures together and get them evidencing things and get them collating information ready for the accreditation process should they wish to go forward with it. And I'm hoping that most of them will. I mean, you've done the work, right? So you want to get acknowledged for that. And I think there aren't that many people. It's a growing interest that clients need, and for smaller businesses as well. So the big corporates, as I say, have got departments of people who are doing this all day, and smaller businesses haven't got the time or the knowledge to do that. So that's
But this is where you come in, right, as a consultant, to manage that process and to make it incredibly easy for somebody who goes from the question mark of, I wish we were more sustainable, but I've no idea how, to actually 3 months later, 6 months later, however long the process takes with you, to have really simply become sustainable, which that is a huge benefit, I would say, just like a huge journey to go through. Even though when I say huge, I don't mean complex, I mean just a transition in terms of mindset and value set for the business. I think it's really, really important, really exciting part of your growth journey, and I'm really pleased to be part of that story, supporting you in the Elevate Circle and seeing it come together. I'm just like, wow, this is it's you coming into sustainability and at a really poignant moment in time. I think it's relevant to all of us, although maybe to start with, not everybody sees how it's relevant to them, and I guess that's what you're going to make it really, really easy for people to digest, understand, and implement, which is great.
Everyone's at a different stage, and that's absolutely fine. And remember, even when you've got the accreditation, like myself, that's a stake in the ground. That doesn't mean, okay, I'm not going to do any more. That means that's where I'm starting.
Yeah. So what's next? What's next is just a matter of being sustainable with your sustainability.
Well, you just basically every choice you make from there on in, everything you do, you keep adding to it, and what you do when you have the accreditation, it's not all about the things that you have done. It's about the things you plan to do. Because say, for example, you haven't got an electric car, but that is something you really think is very important for the business, or you might have a fleet of cars that you want to go electric. That's not going to happen overnight, but that's a plan. So you can evidence that and say, look, we haven't got there yet, but these things we are going to do in the next 3 years. And so you can actually have a sort of like a timeline of what you're doing and an audit trail of where you've come from and where you're going to.
Interesting. I was just thinking then as well, like for award entries and the like, it could be quite an interesting dynamic or element to support your case in terms of, you know, just backing up the values of the business and the long-term objectives of the business, which is really interesting. So I'm going to start wrapping up now, but let's just finish as to why process is important. Why should somebody slow down? Well, I think it's about slowing down to speed up. Like we can waste so much time being inefficient in our businesses. I'm coming from it from a sales training perspective, seeing people hold conversations that don't convert again and again and again is just a waste of time. And you must see a sort of a similar thing in your business, where you can see businesses doing things sort of the long way round, where you could offer a lot of shortcuts in terms of ways to boost their productivity and efficiency and all the good stuff that goes hand in hand with that.
I think it's really important for a business to take time and step back. It's when you have your light bulb moments, and it's when you actually question yourself about, oh, yes, why are we doing that? Or why haven't we done that yet? And I just think you need to see the logic of what you're doing and have a clear pathway. And I think everyone needs structure. You know, even from when we were children, we needed structure to the day. And I think people need structure in their business. They need the They need the confines of it, but they need to challenge the confinements. And I appreciate that. But you still need confinements of the way people do things. And one of the very key things I do that drops out of some of my audits is to set up some standard operating procedures for businesses. So where people need to follow the same structure, say, for example, in an accountancy firm or a bookkeeping firm, so that nobody does things differently and everybody follows a path. It doesn't mean to say that, you know, that's too rigid, but you need that structure underneath.
I'm a big fan of frameworks, you know, just because otherwise you get confused every single time something happens. You know, if there's not a framework, you're like, oh my goodness, this has happened. What am I going to do now? Whereas actually, if you have a framework, you can rely on it to boost your business ultimately, which is what all of us are here to do. You know, to delight our clients and make it what we offer incredibly easy for them to implement and enjoy and benefit from. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about productivity today. I think that there is a lot of unproductivity in business. People spend a lot of time being confused and unclear. And so if you're watching this and this is you, then people like Alex are here to help. Like untangling that spaghetti brain, getting some really simple processes in place. That I think what people do, they get locked in their business and they think, oh, you cannot see the woods for the trees, you know. And I'm the same. Like everybody needs help at different stages. They get so stuck in. You're like, what do I do? You're just confused. You can't educate yourself with the information that you have because you hit a limit. So you need external viewpoints, bird's eye view, and then experts to guide those spaghetti strands back into order. I love that. Fabulous. Anything else you want to wrap up with, Alex? Where do people
No.
find you? Where's your happy place?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn as Alex Hughes, unraveling business puzzles and things like that. So I've also got a website called Auxilium Consulting. So that's www.auxiliumconsulting.co.uk. I'm in the business lounge, so always come and connect with me there. And yeah, I'm always available for half an hour chat. I give half an hour of my time free. So if you're thinking about sustainability or you've got a problem, you'd like to unravel it, I also do some power hours where I'm happy to work through things. So yeah, just get in touch. Lovely to speak to you and happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to wrap up, to anybody who's watching, thanks ever so much for joining us today and listening to myself and Alex. This was the Business Lounge Sofa, which is my talk show. That's my new heading for it, where we try and inspire small business owners to elevate their businesses, their sales ultimately, but everything that supports that journey and process is a massive part of that. So thank you for your time today, Alex. And now let's continue the conversation in the Business Lounge, which is my free Facebook community, which is where I live more or less in the virtual space. I think that's my online happy place. So I'll see you in there, and thanks again. Thanks everyone.